Hello and thanks for joining the program from the National Assembly, House of Representatives. I am Itaire Ikben. The 2024 budget is now an act of parliament after President Bola Tinubu signed the bill into law on the 1st of January 2024. Both chambers of the National Assembly, that is, the Senate and the House of Representatives, passed the budget of 28.7 trillion naira at a special Saturday plenary on 30th December 2023, 1 month after it was initially presented by the President to a joint session of the National Assembly. The red and green chambers increased the budget estimates by 1.2 trillion naira from the 27.5 trillion naira initially presented by President Tinubu. The National Assembly, however, increased the exchange rate from 750 naira to 800 naira per dollar, while oil production of 1.78 million barrels per day, oil benchmark price of 77.96 US dollars, and GDP growth rate of 3.88% were retained and approved as proposed by the President. On the program today, we shall bring you details of the passage of the budget at that special plenary of the House of Representatives.
Almighty God, creator and ruler of heaven and earth, we beseech thee to inspire and guide all our counsels and actions so that we may always walk in the path of justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do only those things that will promote the unity, peace, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria. I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend our unity and uphold our honor and glory. So help me God. This is most likely going to be our last sitting for the year 2023, and I felt that it is expedient for us to take a little stock of where we are coming from since June 13th to date, look at what we have achieved, areas that we need to improve as we enter the year 2024. So with your kind permission, I have a little speech to read. Thank you. Honorable colleagues, it is with a sense of gratitude, fulfillment, and pride that I address you today for the work we have collectively accomplished since the inauguration of this House on 13th June 2023. Over the past 6 months, the House has been a beacon of democratic values and a testament to the power of collaborative governance. Dear colleagues, in the short span of the life of this Assembly, we have suffered some misfortunes, including the death of Honorable Abdulkadir Damboga, member who represented Isa Sabon Birni Federal Constituency of Sokoto State. Earlier, the member-elect representing Jalingo, Yoro, Zing Federal Constituency of Taraba State, Ismail Mehanchi, died shortly before the House was inaugurated. We are saddened by the recent deaths of Mojisola Abayomi, the young daughter of Honorable Benjamin Adeyemi Olabinjo, and the father of Honorable Solomon Wombo, His Royal Highness the Third Katsina Alam, Dr. Benjamin Feza Wombo, who on Wednesday, 27 December 2023, passed to eternal glory. We also received with shock and sadness news of the demise of the Right Honorable Gali Umar Naaba, former Speaker of the Fourth House of Representatives. Honorable Naaba was an icon of the legislature and a dedicated lawmaker and patriot. May we rise to observe a minute silence in their honor and also the souls of those who died in other incidents, including our late governor of Ondo State. May their soul rest in peace. You also recall that we took the oath of office at a particularly challenging period in our nation's history. There is no need to repeat these challenges, given that they are too well familiar to us. The point to emphasize is that we have remained responsive and committed in our efforts to ameliorate the suffering of our constituents and contribute to Nigeria's overall peace and development. Collectively, we have lived up to our mantra as the People's House. We have deliberated on crucial matters that impact the lives of every Nigerian and worked tirelessly to enact laws that will shape the future of our great nation. We considered a wide range of issues, including peace and security, social welfare, healthcare, education, infrastructural development, economic growth, and more. Through robust debates, bipartisan collaboration, and dedication to our constitutional responsibilities, we have passed crucial bills and resolutions that will shape the trajectory of our nations for years to come. Dear honorable colleagues, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to all members of this esteemed and hallowed chamber. Your dedication, expertise, and willingness to engage in constructive debate have been instrumental in our successes. I wish to specifically commend the unity of purpose you have all demonstrated from the first day of our inauguration to now. You have sustained the unanimous support you gave me during my election as Speaker and the election of other principal officers of the House. This overwhelming support has enabled us to achieve so many significant milestones within so short a time. I extend my deepest appreciation to all of you and applaud your excellent exemplary conduct, dedication, and devotion to upholding the highest standards of ethics and professionalism. Of note is the patriotism you all have demonstrated, making astonishing sacrifices to work even on weekends and during public holidays. From the onset, we deliberately adopted a leadership model that is open, transparent, impartial, and inclusive. This approach is intended to enhance public trust and accountability, encourage participation, facilitate better decision-making, and promote new ideas to make the legislature more effective in discharging its constitutional mandate. I'm honored for the opportunity to serve as your Speaker. In this capacity, I have endeavored to foster an environment that promotes constructive dialogue and consensus building. As we adjourn our plenary for the holidays, I want to take this opportunity to reflect on our achievements and express my hopes for the future. In the last 6 months, we have recorded some legislative landmarks that have the potential to impact the lives of our fellow citizens positively. In view of the importance of committees to the operations of the House, we streamline the mandates of committees to avoid overlap and conflicts. We swiftly appointed chairmen and deputies for all the committees and constituted the membership of these committees based on objective criteria to ensure efficiency and effectiveness. By so doing, we have rationalized the membership of committees to more informed decision-making, better management and workload, and improved legislative quality. To strengthen our internal processes and systems, we have reviewed and updated our standing orders to better adapt to changing societal and legislative needs and incorporate technological advancements such as virtual and hybrid meetings and e-parliament to ensure efficiency and accessibility. The revised standing orders is now well suited to address emerging issues and new challenges, such as global emergencies and the COVID-19 pandemic that obstructed the effective functioning of the legislature in the past. Our rules have also been reviewed to align them to international standards and best practices, facilitating better collaboration and consistency in global legislative processes. In the period under review, the House concluded and presented a robust legislative agenda outlining clear and specific objectives that the House intends to achieve and our legislative priorities. This clarity is already contributing to focusing the efforts and resources of the House and its committees on key issues, while at the same time making the legislative processes more efficient and effective. The House agenda identifies 8 priority areas which have been carefully crafted to align with the renewed hope agenda of the executive and the yearnings of our constituents. The key areas of focus highlighted in the agenda are strengthening good governance, improving national security, economic growth and development, social sector reform and development, inclusion and open parliament, influencing, directing Nigeria's foreign policy, and addressing climate change and environmental sustainability. The chosen thematic areas were aggregated in consultation with citizens. Our legislative outputs in the last 6 months are remarkable. The House received and considered 962 bills, 500 motions, and 153 petitions. Of these numbers, 120 bills have passed the second reading stage. They are currently undergoing further review and refinement to address some of the concerns raised during the debates. Another 120 bills have referred to committees for an in-depth analysis. We have also successfully passed many other bills which have been transmitted to the Senate for concurrence. Notable among those bills are the Electricity Act Amendment Bill 2023, the Federal Audit Service Act Amendment Bill 2023, 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2023, and the Oath Act Repeal and Enactment Bill. Other critical bills passed by the House include the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons Bill 2023, Federal Fire and Rescue Service Bill 2023, Administration of Criminal Justice Act Repeal and Enactment Bill 2023, Niger Delta Development Commission Act Amendment Bill 2023, Nigeria Medical Research Council Establishment Bill 2023, Nigerian Peace Corps Establishment Bill 2023, and more recently, the Southeast Development Commission Establishment Bill 2023. The Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023 that we passed was assented to by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on 23rd November 2023. It repealed the 1964 legislation and replaced it with a more contemporary legislation that empowers the Defense Corporation to manufacture, store, and dispose of ordnance. All these bills are intended to provide immediate relief and long-term solutions to the challenges that have plagued our society. Through these bills, we aim to empower our citizens, enhance social injustice, promote social justice, promote economic growth, and promote peace and security. Over the same period, the House received and resolved over 500 motions, many of which brought to the attention of the House and the nation on pressing matters affecting the people. I have also considered motions to be one of the most potent tools of legislative representation. They show that the legislature, better than any other institution, is best placed to articulate the needs of the people and how to address them. Notable motions the House considered include oil theft, students' loans, job racketeering, JAM, firearms, COVID-19 fund mismanagement, 3% contribution to host communities, and the petroleum subsidy regime. In response to the issues raised, the House constituted ad hoc committees to conduct investigative hearings and make recommendations for necessary legislative actions. I'm glad to announce that out of the 30 ad hoc committees, 25 have laid their reports before the House for consideration, while 4 have been considered. In addition to bills and motions, the House also received 153 petitions, which are receiving necessary legislative actions. The House has made significant strides in fostering greater collaboration with citizens in all our key legislative activities. This has been achieved through engaging citizens in oversight, committee activities, and other legislative processes. These efforts have ensured that the voices of the people are heard and their inputs are incorporated into the law-making process. As noted earlier, in developing the legislative agenda, the House organized a citizens' town hall whose inputs were incorporated into the final draft. The House recognizes the importance of electoral reforms in strengthening our democratic institutions. Consequently, we took the initiative to take the lead in soliciting citizens' input on the Electoral Act 2022 and recommendations on strengthening it to deliver more free and fair elections and reduce the judiciary's influence on the electoral processes. The outcomes of elections should be decided at the polling unit and not in a courtroom. The over-judicialization of electoral outcomes has greatly undermined public confidence and could erode the legitimacy of political leadership if not quickly and adequately addressed. The Citizens' Town Hall on electoral reforms have made far-reaching recommendations that would be considered in amending the Electoral Act subsequently. As representatives of the people, it is essential that we involve citizens in our key processes and decision-making. It is in line with this that the House organized a Citizens' Town Hall on the 2024 Appropriation Bill, where the public was given the opportunity to express views on how the budget can better address the specific needs of all Nigerians, especially those at the grassroots. The House remains committed to engaging citizens in its activities and ensuring the lawmaking process is open and inclusive. In the coming years, the budget will be taken to the people at the constituency levels to allow them also to make their own inputs. In line with our standing orders and the legislative agenda, the House commenced sectoral debates and briefings where we engage heads of MDAs. These sessions allow lawmakers to engage with MDAs and better understand the unique challenges each sector faces. This understanding is crucial in developing targeted legislative interventions to address these challenges effectively. They also allow for a more transparent and accountable government. Given the critical nature of the security in this country, the maiden sectoral debate featured the service chiefs and heads of security agencies. Their professional input and information will be improving budget allocation and oversight effectiveness. The 10th House of Representatives has demonstrated a commitment to foster a harmonious but professional relationship with the executive, a relationship between the two arms based on mutual respect and respect for our distinct constitutional mandates. Is fundamental for efficient governance, political stability, effective legislation, and the overall health of our democratic system. It ensures that both arms of government work in synergy for the betterment of Nigeria and our constituents. Honorable colleagues, As we celebrate our accomplishments in the last 6 months, we are mindful of some security setbacks and tragedies that have befallen our people. A few weeks ago, we received the sad news of the bombing of the village of Tudimbiri in Kaduna State by the security agencies in what was described as a mistaken identity. Over 80 people were reported dead. Also on Christmas Day, it was reported that over 100 people were killed in the Bokos and Bariki-led areas of Plateau State by hoodlums. These are among numerous other heinous crimes committed by criminals against innocent citizens. On behalf of the House of Representatives, I wish to express our heartfelt condolence to the families and friends of those who lost loved ones. We pray that the souls of the deceased rest in peace. I assure you that the House will continue to support the federal government's fight against insurgency and criminality through necessary legislative actions. As we applaud our security agencies for their sacrifices, we call for precautionary measures to prevent the repeat of the Kaduna mishap. Honorable members, as we take this well-deserved break, let us carry forward the spirit of unity and teamwork that has characterized the last 6 months. The coming months and years will undoubtedly present new challenges. However, I'm confident that with our collective resolve and commitment, we will continue to make significant strides in advancing the prosperity and well-being of our nation. Dear colleagues, before I conclude these remarks, let me register my appreciation to our development partners, donor agencies, and civil society organizations that have contributed to the success of the work of the House through capacity building and technical support. We must acknowledge the support of the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAC, the Konrad Adenauer Stephen Foundation, the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, the YAGA Africa, the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, NESG, the Budget, Order Paper, CISLAC, and our own National Institute for Democratic and Legislative Studies, NILS, among many others. As we look forward to a more robust collaboration in 2024, we thank them for their services to the House. In closing, distinguished colleagues, I thank each one of you for your service to our country. Your contribution are not just for today, but for the legacy we leave for future generations. May we reconvene with renewed vigor and a shared vision for a brighter, more prosperous Nigeria. To the legislative staff and aides, your unwavering support and hard work behind the scenes have not gone unnoticed. We have navigated complex issues together, and your contributions have been invaluable. May this holiday season bring joy, peace, and prosperity to you, your families, constituents, and our nation. I wish you all a joyous holiday season filled with love, peace, and happiness. May the new year be filled with hope and success. Thank you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. A request for the securitization of the debit balance, which means ways and means in the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federal Government of Nigeria. With your kind permission, I will read the letter. It said, Right Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, National Assembly Complex 3 Arm Zone, Abuja. I write to draw the kind attention of the House of Representatives to the provisions of Section 38 of the Subsisting Central Bank of Nigeria's Act 2007, which stipulates that the Apex Bank may grant temporary advances to the federal government in respect of temporary deficiency of budget revenue, provided such overdraft do not surpass 5% of the government's revenue from the previous year. The House is invited to note From available information by the CBN, the Consolidated Revenue Fund account of the federal government of Nigeria stood at 7,388,696,034 naira as at December 11, 2023, largely due to domestic debt servicing, principal, and interest payments. While the federal government is considering various measures to forestall the use of ways and means advances for domestic debt servicing, it has become highly imperative to secularize the outstanding ways and means advanced to the federal government of Nigeria before the end of the year 2023. The securitization of the ways and means will lead to the realization of the following benefits, among others. A, reduction of debt service cost, as the interest rate for the securitized ways and means advances is lower at 9% per annum compared to MPR plus 3%. B, the savings arising from the much lower interest rate could help to reduce the deficit in the budget. C, improvement in debt transparency, as securitized ways and means advances are included in the public debt statistics. In view of the foregoing, the House of Representatives is invited to kindly consider and approve the securitization of the outstanding debit balance of 7,388 billion naira in the CRF as of December 11, 2023. Please accept, Right Honorable Speaker, the assurances of my highest regards. Yours sincerely, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Our second announcement, honorable colleagues, is coming from Honorable Oluwatimeyin Adelebe, Esquire. And his announcement reads as follows. This is to announce the date of His Excellency, the Governor of Ondo State, Akakurim Rotimi Okudunayo Akiredolu, son, CON. He died on Wednesday, 27 December 2023, after a protracted illness. Until his death, Rotimi Okudunayo Akiredolu is the executive governor of Ondo State and survived by many children. I urge the House to observe a minute silent prayer for his response. Signed, Honorable Timileyin Adelebe. So, honorable colleagues, in spite of the fact that during my speech, we acknowledge the death of all these people except the mother of our former Speaker, Dogara. I think for that reason, I would want to seek for our indulgence to rise once more to pray for the soul of the departed. Thank you. Shall we rise? May the soul of the departed rest in peace.
Matter of urgent public importance. It has to do with Rule 8, Sub-Rule 4, 1, 2, and 3. And the motion is on the urgent need to condemn and investigate the gruesome Christmas Eve killings in Plateau State of Nigeria. The Speaker, respected colleagues, this has to do with the number of persons that have been killed. Over 200 people have lost their life under this, and I want to beg the leave of the House to suspend our rules to allow me to present the motion. I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
I rise to second the motion, heavily moved by my highly respected colleagues, our leader. I so move.
I stand to second the second leg of the motion moved by my senior colleague. Thank you.
Those against should say nay.
The ayes have it. Honorable Wase, please proceed.
I rise to raise a motion on the urgent need to condemn and investigate the gruesome Christmas Eve killings in parts of Plateau State. The House knows that on the 24th of December at 22 hours, the following 12 villages in Bokos, local government area, were attacked: Ndung, Nyang, Mudfed, Mokundari, Tamiso, Chiang, Tahari, Waraba, Dares, Mayanga, Darwat, and Butura company villages, according to preliminary police report. Further notes that similarly on 24th of December 2023, at about 22:44 hours, 3 villages in Barikiladi, namely Nti, Kurum, and Dawarat, were also attacked. Informed that the findings from the assessment of the ugly incident in Bokos government area revealed that the total number of villages attacked were 12, 221 homes were set ablaze, 27 motorcycles were burned, 8 motor vehicles were burned down, and 79 persons were killed, while 17 deaths were recorded in Barikiladi local government area of Plateau State. Further informed that the death toll from the various attacks at Bokos, Barikiladi, and Mangu local government area of Plateau State has surpassed over 200 on the 29th of December 2023, with many others seriously injured, according to several news sources. Urge the Inspector General of Police to immediately conduct a detailed investigation into these attacks with a view to identifying the perpetrators and bringing them to justice. Urge the Honorable Minister of Defense to initiate a coordinated joint security operation within these local government areas and adjoining towns located in Plateau State, Bauchi, Gombe, Taraba, and Nasarawa states to flush out criminals and bandits and prevent them from escaping to other states. The House appreciates the efforts of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by sending a delegation high-powered promptly to the affected communities through the leadership of the Vice President. Urge the Chief of Air Staff to collaborate with Chief of Air Staff to provide aerial surveillance and support to flush out criminal hideouts and camps. 6, urge the Departments of State Security Services and Director of Military Intelligence to gather intelligence information on the influx, camping, and operations of criminal groups within Bokos, Barikiladi, Mangu, and other villages in the areas and adjoining towns, and share same with other sister security agencies. Urge the Chief of Staff, Army Staff, to establish military bases in the state local government areas and other volatile areas of Plateau State. Direct the Committee on NEMA, Defense, Army, Air Force, Police, and legislative compliance to ensure compliance and furnish the House with a monthly report until the security situation is resolved. Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues, I so submit.
This particular attack has been reoccurring, and we urge the security agencies, the National Assembly, should come on support to our constituency on these gruesome killings that is happening within this constituency. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I will use this opportunity as well to make some few amendments on the prayer submitted by our leader of the North Central Caucus. That one, this House should urge the defense headquarters to be able to establish forward operation base in about 6 critical villages of Mangu, Bokos, and Barkin Ladi local government areas of Plateau State. And those areas may be Dankong, Mahanga, Chakfem, Karfa, Darfur, and Mushere village areas of these three local governments. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable House should urge the Inspector General of Police to establish a mobile police squadron formations on equally some areas such as Gung, Janeret, Kadunu, Mushu, Nyampang, and Manguna village. Subsequently, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable House should equally ensure and draw the attention of the National Security Office of the National Security Advisor to build a counter-terrorism centers in these affected areas. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to air my voice on the floor of the House on solidarity of my people that have been killed and injured, properties have been scattered and destroyed. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Contribution, time is not on our side. I will recognize Honorable Chinda, who is a co-sponsor to this motion as well.
Very seriously, this Christmas is a black one for our country, Nigeria. The Christmas where we recorded over 100 citizens that were gruesomely murdered. This is not an incident that ordinarily this country would not have avoided. It was an avoidable one. From the accounts we got, letters were sent out, warnings were given by the murderers, but we are sleeping on this. If you recall, Section 14(2)(b provides the salt of every government. That is provision of security of lives and welfare of the citizens. And clearly, if salt loses its saltiness, it is not worthy of anything other than to be trampled upon. If a government cannot provide for the security of our citizens, then that government is not worth it. And let me also remind us that we form the second arm of government in our country, Nigeria. I am tired of standing every day to observe 1 minute silence. The lives of Nigerians should begin to matter to us. Those over 100 persons in Jos that were killed could be our brothers and our sisters. In fact, any member of this parliament could have been there. Let us have that feeling. We can no longer fold our arms and watch these things happen. And every day we will stand here, take motions. We need to begin to act. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, this is not the first. This is not the second. It might not be the last unless something crucial is done. I will call on this House to reflect on the security situation in the country today. One life, just one, could be life of Kingsley Chinda, and it is as important as any other life, and we don't know what will happen next. We can go on and on, but because of the business of today, I will simply pray that we can no longer allow these things in the hands of the security agencies and do nothing.
I rise this afternoon to second this motion, ably moved by my colleague. I so second.
Those in support of this motion as amended should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to the committees, NEMA, Air Force, Police, and Legislative Compliance for further legislative actions. Thank you. Contribution by way of personal explanation from the DS, and then we move to the body proper.
Point of order. Arise under Order 8 through 5, which is personal explanation. to do just two things. One, this is the end of this year's section before we embrace 2024. Your Excellency, you have reeled out the achievements of this 10th Assembly. And we are amazed with what we have achieved as a team. We also need to commend you, and that is what I've stood up to do. That your leadership has brought these ones together, has increased the cohesion among us. Your leadership has united the nation, has cared for the people we represent, and we need to commend you for that exemplary leadership. But beyond that, I want to also thank you and the membership of this House for finding out time to come to Bende to unveil the initiative of peace in Southeast. That has given my people a great sense of inclusion, where the North and the South all converge in Bende to say we are in support of non-kinetic approach towards resolving our problems in the Southeast. I thank you, honorable colleagues who came. I'm happy that you came safely and you left safely. I want to thank the emirs who came, the emir of Vichy, the emir of Kano. I want to thank the Oni of Ife. I want to thank the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who was represented by the Vice President. I want to thank the Senate President, the President of the Senate, represented by the Deputy Senate President. Thank you for bringing huge amount of members to Bende. I really appreciate you for doing this. It's an encouragement towards this peace, and we will reciprocate when the need arises. You have stimulated peace conversation in the Southeast, and we are promising Nigeria that this peace conversation will lead to the national cohesion, national loyalty that is expected from Southeast. Thank you once again, and God bless you.
The business of the day is presentation of report of the Committee on Appropriation on a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation to the total sum of 28,777,404,073,861 naira only, of which 1,742,788,150 naira only is for statutory transfers. 8,270,960,606,831 naira only is for debt service. 8,768,513,380,852 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 9,995,143,298,028 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on 31st day of December 2024. Standing in the name of Honorable Abubakar Kabir Abubakar, honorable members will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Friday, 1st December 2023. This report is ready for presentation. Honorable Abubakar is hereby invited to present the report.
The Speaker, I rise to move that the House do receive the report of the Committee on Appropriations on a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 28,777,444,742,786,783,900 73 million, 86 million, 788,150 naira only is for statutory transfers. 8,270 billion, 960 million, 606,831 naira only is for debt service. 8,768 billion, 513 million, 380,852 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 9,995 billion, 143 million, 298,028 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending 31st December 2024. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion that we receive the report. I so second.
This motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Please, Chair, proceed and lay your report. Consideration of report of the Committee on Appropriation on a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 28,774,404,073,861 naira only, of which 1,742,788,150 naira only is for statutory transfers. 8,270,960,606,831 naira only is for debt service. 8,768,513,380,852 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 9,995,143,298,028 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending 31st day of December 2024. Honorable members will recall that the report was laid on Saturday, 30 December 2023. Honorable Kabir Abubakar is hereby called upon to move for its consideration.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the House do consider the report of the Committee on Appropriations on bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 28,777,404,073,861 naira only, of which 1,742,786,788,150 naira only is for statutory transfers. 8,270,960,660,831 naira only is for debt service. 8,768,513,380,852 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 9,995,143,298,831 28 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for the capital expenditure for the year ending 31st December 2024. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
I rise to support the motion as moved by Chairman Appropriation. I so support.
I move that the House move to Committee of the Whole for consideration of the reports. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I rise to second the motion that the House do revert to Committee of Supply to consider the Bill HB 1027. I so second.
Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. House resolved to the Committee of Supply.
Mr. Speaker, you may recall that on Wednesday, 29 November 2023, the President and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, laid before the joint sitting of the National Assembly of the 2024 Appropriation Bill named Budget of Renewed Hope. The bill containing the estimate of revenue and expenditure of the Federation for the 2024 fiscal year is the aggregate sum of 27,503,404,073,861 naira only, of which 1,376,352,359,690 naira only. The statutory transfers 8,490,960,660,831 naira only is for debt service, while 9,918,248,229,600 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 7,817,817,740 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on 31st December 2024. Mr. Speaker, we have done legislative actions. The House debated the general principle of the bill on Thursday, 30th November and Friday, 1st December 2023, respectively. The bill was read the second time on Friday, 1st December 2023, and consequently referred to the Committee on Appropriation for further legislative actions. In view of the short time given to the committee to process the bill, I report back the leadership of the Senate and the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriation met and developed a work plan which was approved by the leadership of the National Assembly to guide the processing of the bill. One-day citizen town hall engagement with CSOs and NGOs on the budget proposal on Monday, 4th December 2023. Similarly, a special interactive session was conducted on the 5th and 6th and 7th December 2023, where relevant stakeholders on the financial and revenue sectors attend and made significant input to strengthening the budget enactment process. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I wish to state here that submission and defense of budget reports by subcommittees before the Appropriation Committee was scheduled for 5 days, Wednesday 13 to Sunday 17 December 2023. However, this was later extended to another 4 days, Monday 18 to Thursday 21 December 2023, due to delays experienced by some subcommittees to meet MDAs and harmonize their report with their Senate counterparts. This delay to a large extent was caused due to the volume of work the subcommittees had to contend with during the short budget engagement with their various MDAs. In the same vein, subcommittees on conclusion of their harmonization with their Senate counterparts submitted and defended their 2024 budget report before the appropriation committees. Most of the subcommittees complained of inadequate funds and decline in budgetary allocation to the MDS under their purview. In addition to the rising costs in the polity and continuous decline in the value of Naira, revenue absorption for the 2024 appropriation bill. In preparing detail of the 2024 appropriation bill, the committee adopted the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper, MTEP/FSP, approved by the National Assembly as shown below. Number 1, benchmark price of crude oil. Executive proposal, $76.96 US per barrel. National Assembly approval, 77.96 per barrel. Crude oil production, 1.78 million barrel per day. National Assembly approval, 1.78 million barrel per day. Exchange rate, 755 US dollars, while National Assembly approval, 800 Naira per dollar. GDP growth rate, 3.88%. National Assembly approval, 3.88%. Budget deficit, 9.18 trillion, while National Assembly, 9.18 trillion. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, after due consideration of the submission by subcommittees and interaction with the relevant stakeholders, the highlights of the bill as recommended by the committee are as follows. Aggregate expenditure, 28 trillion, 777 billion, 404 million, 73 Naira 861. Statutory transfers, 1 trillion, 742 billion, 786 million, 788,150. Recurrent expenditure, 8 trillion, 768 billion, 513 million, 380,852. While capital expenditure, 9 trillion, 995 billion, 143 million, 298,028. The GDP remained 3.88%. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it is important to state that the Joint Committee on Appropriations worked closely and harmoniously with the executive arm of government in processing this bill. Through the closely and harmonious appropriation process, the executive forwarded requests for additional funding in some items of expenditure to the committee, which were not included in the bill as submitted by the President. In order to accommodate the request, the following adjustments have been made on the bill. Foreign exchange differential, GOE's revenue increase, GOE's personnel reductions, service-wide board wage adjustments, reduction from service-wide board. Mr. Speaker, the committee observed as follows. The 2024 appropriation bill was presented to the National Assembly late. This is against the Fiscal Responsibility Act that requires the bill to be presented not later than 3 months before the next financial year, which put intense pressure on the processing of the bill. Number 2, prohibition of multilateral and bilateral loan funded projects in the sum of 1 trillion 51 billion 914 million 486,314. Inconsistencies in the revenue of some government-owned enterprises. Number 4, removal of some agencies' personnel costs from the FGN payroll. Number 5, inadequate funding and shortfall in some MDS budgetary allocations. 6, prohibition of capital component is higher when compared with the previous budget presented to the National Assembly. While number 7, request for additional funding on item expenditure not originally contained in the bill. Our recommendation is as follows. The executive should henceforth comply with the provision of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Number 2, executive should ensure compliance with the provision of relevant and extant laws as is concerned GOEs. Number 3, agencies removed from FGN budget should step up their revenue generation, fund itself and remit more to CRF. Number 4, provision for additional funds to some MDS not appropriately funded. Executive branch is encouraged to sustain the increase on capital component over recurrent to ensure development programs across the country. While number 6, additional funds were made available for some NDS. Mr. Speaker, constantly honorable colleagues, given that due consideration has been followed in processing the 2024 appropriation bill, the committee further recommended that the House should consider and approve the bill for an act to authorize the issuance from the Consolidated Revenue Funds, CRF, the sum total of 28,777,404,073,861. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the committee, we wish to thank the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the entire House leadership for the support given to the committee in processing the bill. We also appreciate the Appropriations Subcommittee for their cooperation and understanding of the circumstances of processing the bill. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Honorable Ali Madaki.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to second that we do accept this report and pass it as a House. I do second, Mr. Speaker.
Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. So, honorable colleagues, we go, with your kind permission, to the second stage, which is consideration, close by close consideration of this budget. We start with clause 1, which is issue and appropriation of 28,777,404,073,861 naira from the Consolidated Revenue Fund for 2024. Carried. The second is the fourth schedule. Second is release of funds for the Consolidated Revenue Fund. Carried. Number 3, environment. Carried. Corrigendum. Carried. Excess revenue. Authorization. Information on funds releases. Due process certification. Information on internally generated revenue, domestic and foreign. Power of Nigerian embassies and missions. Detailed estimate. Honorable Jimmy, I'm not hearing your voice, though. Are you here? Expiry Constitution 1999. Short title. Revenues. The figure revenues, federal government share. The figure for revenues, Part A, federal government share of gross federation revenues, carried. Part B, deductions. Part C, federal government share of net federation revenues. Part D, independent revenues. Part E, other dividends. Part F, aid and grants. Special funds and account receipts. Government-owned enterprise net of operating surplus. Others. Aggregate revenue inflow is 19,593,473,687,947. Carried. Expenditures. Part 1, statutory transfers. Debt service sinking fund, recurrent non-debt, that's part K, part L, recurrent non-debt expenditure, part M, capital expenditure, aggregate expenditure which total 28 trillion 777 billion 404 million 73,861 naira. Carried. Surplus stroke deficit of 9 trillion 178 billion 930,385. Carried. Financing items, Part N, debt servicing, carried. Part O, asset sales and privatization, carried. Part B, multilateral and bilateral project-type loans, carried. Aggregate financing items totaling 9 trillion 178 billion 930 million 385 million 1,904 naira. Carried. Aggregate financing item schedules 2024 appropriation bill, carried. Share of federation account, share of federation revenues. Head 1, federal government share of main pool of 12 trillion 1.11 billion, carried. Federal government share of VAT pool of 593 billion, carried. Federal government share of EMTL of 26 billion 266 million 693,442 naira, carried. Total share of federation revenue amounting or totaling 12 trillion 739 billion 69 million 984,307 naira, carried. Deductions, head 4, oil and gas deductions of 188 billion, carried. Non-oil deduction, cost of collection totaling 323.6 billion, carried. Transfer to FCT Ecological Stabilization and Natural Resources Funds amounting to 990.38 billion, carried. Total deductions totaling 1 trillion 502 billion 632 million 513,940, carried. Part C, federal government share of net federation revenues. Head 7, federal government share of net revenues, federal government share of main pool, 10 trillion, 10.699 trillion, carried. Federal government share of VAT pool amounting to 512.833 billion, carried. Federal government share of EMTL amounting to 24 billion 393 million, carried. Total share of federation revenues amounting to 11,236,437,470,367 naira. Carried. Part D, independent revenues. Tax revenues amounting to 77,983,000,000 carried. Non-tax revenue amounting to 732,450,000,000 carried. Operating surplus amounting to 1,097,342,111,928 naira carried. Total independent revenues of 1,907,745,748,763 naira carried. Part E, other dividends, NLNG with 346 billion carried. Bank of Industry with 5.534 billion carried. Development Bank of Nigeria with 2.92 billion carried. Bank of Agriculture with 2.429 billion carried. Galaxy Backbone with 150 million carried. Total dividends, 357 billion, 923,133,707 naira carried. Schedule, Part F, aids and grants. Foreign aid and grants amounting to 685,632,294,000 carried. Total aids and grants amounting to 685.632 billion carried. Part G, special levies and accounts transfers to Consolidated Revenue Fund and CDF, transfers to Consolidated Revenue Fund amounting to 300 billion carried. Total special levies and accounts amounting to 300 billion carried. Part H, government-owned enterprises. Government-owned enterprises amounting to 4,853,565,246,556 naira carried. Gross operating surplus, which is 80% of which is captured in independent revenue, amounting to 1,208,484,776,894 naira carried. Total gross revenue, which is equivalent to net operating surplus, 3,645,080,469,662 naira carried. Part 1, Education Task Fund, Third Fund, 700 billion carried. Signature bonus and renewals, 251 billion carried. Share of oil price royalty of 24,169,000,000 90,276 carried. Exchange rate differentials of 490 billion carried. Okay, honorable colleagues, because of time constraints, maybe I will not go into the nitty-gritty, but you have, each and every one of you has a copy. So perhaps I will be calling either the totals or subtotals and also cite the page number for guidance. And then we will ask the question, okay? Yeah. So on page 602, we have total summary statutory transfers of 1,742,786,788,150 carried. Page 603, which has a total of subtotal for executive standing in the sum of 5,451,5,825,082 naira carried. Page 604. Page 604, carrying various sums carried. 605 carried. Six or 607, 608 carried. Explanatory memorandum, long title, any other thing? Thank you very much. House has resolved back to plenary. Approved recommendations as follows. Clause 1 to 13, the schedule, explanatory memorandum, and the long title of the bill. Honorable members, I will invite the House Leader to move that the House adopt the report of the committee.
I hereby move that the House do consider, adopt the report of the committee.
The House suspend its relevant rules to take the third reading of this bill.
Right, Honorable Speaker, honorable members. A bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation. The total sum of 28,777,404,073,861 naira only, of which 1,742,786,788,150 naira only is for statutory transfers. 8,270,960,606,831 naira only is for debt service. 8,768,513,380,852 naira only is for the current non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 9,995,143,298 naira and 28 kobo and 28 naira is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending 31st December 2024. Third reading.
Bill read for the third time and passed. Honorable colleagues, the next business of the day is presentation of the committee report of the Committee on Finance on request for sanitization of the debit balance, ways and means in the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the federal government, standing in the name of Honorable James Abiodun Faleke. Honorable members will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Saturday, 30th December 2024. The report is ready for presentation. Honorable Baleke is hereby invited to present the report.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the House do consider the report of the scrutinization of the outstanding debt balance of 7,388,696,034,520.82 in the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation as of December 11, 2023. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by my chairman that the report of the Committee on Finance on the request from the President to approve the securitization of the outstanding on Ways and Means account, I so second. Thank you.
I hereby move that the House do move to the Committee of Supply for consideration of report.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Faleke, can you please give us synopsis of this report?
We received a communication on the report of the Committee on Finance on the scrutinization of the debt balance, Ways and Means in the Consolidated Revenue of the Federal Government of Nigeria. This communication was, of course, received on the 30th. And after consideration, we are presenting the report for the consideration of the Committee of Supply to approve. So the House will present the report. The committee is hereby presenting the report for the scrutinization of the outstanding debt balance of 7,388,696,034,520.82 in the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation account as of December 11, 2023. Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, I so move.
So with your kind permission, I will just read it out for your own adoption and consideration. The clause that we need to actually approve is that the House do approve the securitization of the outstanding debt balance of 7,388,696,034,520 naira in the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation as at December 11, 2023. Carried? Thank you very much. Support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. House has reverted back to plenary.
That was how the passage of the budget played out at the House of Representatives. Speaking with the media after plenary, Chairman House Committee on Appropriation Abubakar Bichi provided further insight on the increase of the budget estimates, just as other lawmakers called for effective implementation of the 2024 budget.
We had a meeting with the GOEs. We believe that their submission is not enough, so that they have agreed to increase their revenues to 700 billion. So when we increase that, we are able to get that to 1.2 trillion, which we applied in capital. We worked day and night to pass this budget, which today we are able to pass it. And the issue of implementation, we had procurement process. That process, it's a little bit delaying the implementation of the budget. But we had discussion with the Bureau of Public Procurement how to fast-track that process. So I assure you that the implementation will start as soon as possible. This is to show you, Mr. President, and Nigerian will see massive projects in 2024. Construction of roads, Ministry of Works, we allocated about 850 billion naira for Ministry of Works for the first time. Education, health, we all give them a lot of funding. So Nigerian will see a lot. And in agri, they have about 800 billion as well. So because President said he needs massive production of food, so we allocated a lot of funds on the Ministry of Agri. And Ministry of Water Resources also, construction of dams, irrigations during this dry season. So we are able to earmark a lot of money for that. So I believe this budget is brilliant, and Nigerian will see a lot of impact.
My committee is also working alongside the Committee on Public Finance to ensure that the funds is released on time. And we don't want MDAs to wait until they have 100% release. we want them to release, we want them to start awarding these jobs in stages based on the position of release.
One fantastic thing they did was to adjust the exchange rate with realities that is on the ground from 750 to 800, which now gave us more funds. And those funds were committed to the new project that the president sent in to be able to take care of challenges that need to be dealt with. But the beautiful thing about this, for the first time, we didn't have any back and forth with the budget process in terms of, much visible changes. We worked in line with the vision of the executive because we strongly believe that the president have the best intention in solving critical national problems. And that was why I didn't see much of changes or environment or movements or some of the project that was expected.
Good enough, the executive and the legislature have once again demonstrated effective synergy to sustain the January to December budgetary cycle. The focus now is on budget performance and implementation to engender positive impact on the masses for economic growth and development. And that's where we leave it on the program today. My name is Mitaire Ikwen. Thanks so much for watching and wishing you the best in the year 2024.